Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome back in to another edition of Astros Recap. David Artis back at it here, as it is basically 24 minutes away from opening day officially, as it's 11:36 p.m., March 27th, 2024, as opening day is upon us tomorrow. So we're getting super psyched, pumped up, happy about things. Obviously, wanted to get on before the season started. Now, I typically actually do this tomorrow, but since it's a 3 o'clock game, I plan on sleeping in tomorrow. Didn't want to, sort of have to rush to try to get things out. So doing it tonight, getting it uploaded. Hopefully, some of y'all are watching this before the season actually starts. If not, I enjoy people that listen at any point, anytime. So few things before I get going here. One, computer still works. I brought this up on my last podcast, but computer's like on its last leg. In fact, it's plugged in right now. It will only work if it is plugged in charging. And if I move this charger, if I move this at all, it completely shuts off the computer. So I want to just point that out, because if I accidentally poke this charger or if I move it in any way, shape, or form, this entire thing will just, shut off. So, wanted to state that, but I'm going to continue to use this computer because although I have a backup computer, I have to install all this software to get back to where this is right here. So, I just wanted to point that out. So, but what I want to do tonight here, as I'll probably take into the midnight hour, but I want to break down the Astros roster. Don't think it's been released quite yet, so I'm just going to give you based on what I expect. 26-man roster. Obviously, the Astros will have 25 people to choose from because Abreu will serve his 2-game suspension. I thought it was a 4-game suspension. I thought when they came down with the ruling in the playoffs last year, it was a 4-game suspension, so I don't know if it got reduced to 2 or what, but anyway, Abreu will be suspended the first 2 games of the season, so he will be unavailable out of the bullpen. But I'm going to start position player-wise and then move to the pitching. And I feel like I might have some trouble when I get to the bullpen. Although I can think of 6 bullpen guys off the top of my head, so maybe I can get to 26. But I might be missing some of the bench players. We'll wait and see here. But one guy I did not mention on the last podcast that I thought, right after I got off, I thought of this guy, was John Singleton. And he will actually be on the team. I think he'll have a roster spot, as far as I have heard. Now, I don't keep up with spring training like some people do. I don't really watch the games. All I do is what I hear off of Twitter, or if I listen to a podcast or whatever. That's how I get my spring training info, really. I don't like to watch spring training, really. I don't take a lot of stock into it. I don't look at people's numbers and think a lot of it. So, but yeah, Singleton was a guy I just wanted to bring up because that was a name I forgot last podcast when I was talking a little bit about some of the players. But if we just start with position players, catching, obviously you got Yander Diaz and Victor Caratini. So that's 2 right there. Abreu at first. You'll have Altuve. You'll have Pena. You'll have Bregman. You'll have Alvarez. You'll have McCormick. You'll have Myers. You'll have Tucker. You'll have Singleton. You'll have Dubon. That's 12. I don't know if... So Gray Kessinger was a guy named, but I'm just going to stick with the 12 there for now. They might have... There's probably one more bench guy I'm missing, because if Caratini's your backup catcher, you have Mauricio Dubon, who can play everywhere, and you have Singleton. Singleton's only value, at least defensively, is going to be at first base. So if Abreu gets a day off a week, which is something I'd expect with his age, I think Abreu needs a day off per week. So if you're playing 6 games, let him play 5. But I would try to keep Abreu. I mean, giving him a weekly day off, I think, is probably a good thing for him. So, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, they would probably benefit. I think I feel like Dubon might see more time in center field this year, or not center field, but in the outfield, just because if Jake Myers doesn't play well enough, they're going to have to turn to somebody. And you don't want Jordan in left field anymore. Like, personally, I wouldn't want Jordan out in left field any more than 40 games tops because I just don't want him out there risking any sort of injury, especially after he's proven to be sort of injury prone. I want Jordan just to worry about the bat basically 90% of the time. So, but Dubon might see some time in the outfield if Jake Myers doesn't work out, and I definitely have my doubts about Jake Myers and him working out. Now, I'm not the biggest Chas McCormick guy. I've never been. I've always been Jake Myers over Chas McCormick, but I can't defend Jake Myers and his 220 batting average last year. So, yes, we'll see how things go. But yeah, I have my doubts in the outfield. Um, but that's 12 I named. If I go to pitching-wise, starters, the guys I see lining things up. But the 12 there, obviously Fromber starting opening day tomorrow. You'll have Javier Friday. You'll have Hunter Brown Saturday. And you can really go either way you want here between J.P. France and Ronel Blanco. But they're both going to be starting, so that's 5 there. Now, if they want to go 6-man, you could use Belak, who will also make the squad. But Belak you might want to keep in the bullpen as sort of a long reliever type role if they don't want to go 6-man rotation. So Joe Spada's got some decisions to make on that sort of front. So look at it. But that's 6 guys there. Seth Martinez will make the team. Now, I just saw this on Twitter a few hours ago. Parker Mashinsky is going to make the team as your lefty, which makes me think Bennett Souza, who did not have a great spring, probably does not make the team. However, he could. They might have 2 lefties in that bullpen. I'm not sure. But that's at 8. If I just say Seth Martinez, Parker Mashinsky. Of course, your back end. Well, I want to say also Montero, so that's 9. Rafael Montero. And then, of course, you get Hader, Presley, and Abreu. So that would be 20. That's 12 plus the 12. It's 24. So I'm missing 2 roster spots. So Bennett Souza might be a guy. And I'm probably missing a bench player. And maybe Gray Kessinger. I'm not sure. But there's a few roster. I got to 24. It's not bad to get to 24 guys, but I'm missing a few. But I think the 24 I named are for sure on this team. I don't know on Bennett Souza, but I'm pretty sure Singleton made the squad. And I wouldn't have known about Parker Mashinsky if it wasn't for the tweet I saw from Chandler Rome a few hours ago that said he'd be on the team. So, but I'm not going to speculate on the other 2 roster spots. I'll just wait and see, and I'll update you next time I talk to you, which should be Sunday, just in a few days here, this end of the weekend. But that's the roster as I see it constructed and what I expect to see. And then we'll see the other 2 guys. It could be Gray Kessinger. It could be Bennett Souza. Those are the first 2 that come to mind. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody. So we'll wait and see. But I could scroll through Twitter here, but I don't think the roster has been released. I expect to be something I see tomorrow morning. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to speculate on 2 guys. Let's see if I can go to the Astros app here real quick as I try to look things over if they have any news on here we go. I think I got the roster right here. So Kessinger didn't make it. Well, hold on. Hold on here. So Kessinger made it, but I also see Julks on here. So Singleton, Julks, Dubon, Kessinger. It seems like too many position players, though. But this looks like this is the roster, at least. I'm looking over it again here, but I see Julks, I see Kessinger, I see Singleton. Dubon. So that seems that would, if they go less pitchers, because I'm not getting the pitchers here, I'm just getting the position players here. But yeah, if they have Julks and Kessinger, that would be the 26. If they stuck with just 12 pitchers, it'd be 14 position players. Let me just double, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? 1, 2, 3. Hold on, let me see. I got to see this here. No, that's not even, no, that's not the roster. Hold on. I'm wrong. This is just the numbers against Nestor Cortez, who pitches for the Yankees. All right, so I'm totally misplaced on that. So I'm not. The 24 I named are the 24 I expect, and I don't. We'll find out the rest. I just misread that entire thing. Anyway, so put the phone back away here. But yeah, I named 24, and then we'll wait on the other two. But I'm pretty confident the 24 I named. As far as predictions go, I also want to circle back briefly here to last year's predictions. And I don't remember all of them specifically. I do remember a few off the top of my head. I mean, I picked the Astros, so I got that right. I did not pick the Rangers to even make the playoffs, so they obviously won the World Series. I was off there. I also picked, I believe, the Mariners to make the playoffs, which they did not, so I was off there. But one pick I made that I regretted like a week after the season started was I picked Chicago, the White Sox in the Central. Now, my thought process here was, hear me out here. So making predictions last year for 2023. The White Sox were good in 2021. Just took a step back in 2022. I thought they'd rebound in 2023, but that's not the case. They were terrible, and they traded away everybody, so they're the one team that will not make the playoffs this year, and they weren't even close last year. I should have picked the Twins, and the Twins probably will be my pick. But that AL Central is a hard division to pick because it seems like it's somebody different every year, whether it's the Guardians, whether it's the Twins. People think the Royals will be better, the Tigers will be better, so... but I'd probably stick with the Twins. If they stay healthy, I think they'd be the team to pick. I'm still going to pick the Astros in the AL West. That's not going to change. I also picked last year. I picked the Cardinals in the Central. I think I did, and I was way off on that too, as they were like the last place team in that division. So, but I have to go out on a limb with some of these picks because you can't pick the same teams because it just never works that way. Those are the easy picks to make. And some of the same teams obviously are going to make it. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, in some of the divisions, it's always a different team. And the AL Central is kind of like that. The NL Central is kind of like that. I didn't think the Orioles would make the playoffs last year. And they won their division and had the best record in the American League. So, it's funny to think back of these predictions, how bad they ended up being last year for the majority of it. As far as this year, I'm going to pick the Astros in the AL West. I think I'm going to pick... I think Seattle. I don't know why, but I'm always high on Seattle for some reason. If they could just get off to a decent start. Like if Seattle could just play 500 ball for the first few months, because they've proven the last 2 years that they, are a second half team. They just dig themselves a hole, and then they get hot. And last year they just sort of ran out of gas towards the end, a little up and down. Astros struggled against the Mariners. They were 3-9 against that. Hold on. 4-9. Yeah, 4-9 against that team last year. So they were not very good against the Mariners at all last year until that final. They played them the second to last series of the regular season in Seattle and took 2 or 3, which was huge as the Astros needed every win down the stretch to eke out the division title there. But yeah, so I'll pick the Astros. I'll pick the Mariners. The Rangers, I think, make it as well. That'd be 3 teams. So let's think here. There's 3 wild card teams. So if I were to pick 3 teams from the AL West, I could also pick somebody else. But the AL East should be competitive. So I'm going to have to leave some teams out here. But The Astros, I say, win that division. So I would pick the Astros. And the Central will just have one team. And I'm probably, like I said, I'm leaning Twins. And I would probably go with the Twins and feel pretty good about that pick. Can't be any worse than last year's White Sox team. So, and then as far as the East goes, I'm not going to make the same mistake I did last year. So I'll pick Baltimore to win that division. But I have to pick at least one more team there, like the Yankees, the Rays. Man, how can I do this? Maybe I don't pick the Mariners actually had the like roster wise because the Astros had the injuries to the pitching rotation, and so does Texas. So I feel like starting pitching wise, at least Seattle's better right now with their starters having Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby as their 1-2-3s. I would assume, which is better than what the Astros and Rangers can throw out, but the Mariners just every year, for some reason, can't get off to good starts. And that's what did them in last year. So, I mean, they went on a bigger run in August where they were like 22-6 or something like that. They went on some bigger run, but then they struggled again. And then, towards the end of the year, they couldn't take 2 or 3 from the Astros, and they were forced to like win every single game against the Rangers, which they couldn't do. So. But they actually helped the Astros at the end, winning the final game of the season, actually to beat the Rangers to give the Astros the division. But yeah, Rangers still won the World Series. So at the end of the day, they still, everything that went on last year doesn't matter because they won the World Series. So, but yeah, and then it gets tough because I want to pick both the Rangers and the Mariners, but I feel like I can't pick both of them because I have to pick the Yankees. The Yankees I feel like the Yankees are going to be in the playoffs as a wild card team. And then I have to pick, for some reason, I feel like Tampa Bay always finds a way, one way or another. I don't want to leave them out. But I can only have 3 wild card teams. The Yankees have to occupy one of those spots for me. And I don't want to bet against the Rays because the Rays find a way. But I might bail on that because I feel like I have to put Texas in there. And I have to put Seattle in there. So that's probably the way I would lean. And I'd keep the Mariners out. So there you go. That would wrap up my AL. Astros win the West. Twins win the Central. Orioles win the East. Wildcard teams, in whichever order, I'd have the Mariners, the Rangers, and the Yankees. You know, pick an order there, I'd probably go Yankees, Rangers, Mariners is the way I'd probably, if I were to rank the wildcard teams. I would suspect probably I don't like doing this because it's repetitive, but the Orioles probably have that best record again. Because I see the Astros winning right in the 94 win range. I see, like, if I were to predict their win-loss total, I would say 94 and 68. I see the Astros doing that, winning that division. But the Orioles have all the pieces of last year. They added Corbin Burns, which is a big starting pitching upgrade for them. And they didn't really, as far as I know, they didn't lose anybody. And they're fully healthy, I think. So that's the way I see it. I'm going to shift to the National League, though, here now. And before I do that, though, so if I say Baltimore has the best record in the AL, I would say the Astros have the second best record, so they would get the buys. Right, the Astros were the 2 seed last year as well. Even though Tampa Bay, wildcard team, had a better record, they were a wildcard team because the Orioles were so good. NL, this will be interesting as well. Obviously, the West there is going to be the Dodgers, and they can win 120 games this year. I don't think the Dodgers will win the World Series, but I could see them easily winning that division by 15, 20 games, and I could see them winning 120 games this year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to say they'll win that division. The Central, this is where you could really pick 4 of these 5 teams. I mean, I kind of wanted to pick the Cardinals. I don't think I'm going to do it. This is where I'm going to go on a limb. A team that showed some things last year. Really 2 teams there did. But 2 teams that fell out of the playoff race the last week of the season or so were the Cubs and the Reds. And I'm going to pick the Reds to win this division. So I will pick the Reds. That's my going out on a big limb there. But I think I don't think this division is particularly super good. I think those teams are very competitive. I think they're better. Like even the Pirates are supposed to be improved. But you get the Pirates, you get the Brewers, you get the Cardinals, you get the Cubs, you get the Reds. I'm gonna go out on a limb and pick a new team and say the Reds win the NL Central. But any of those teams I feel like could win. So, but I'm gonna go with the Reds and going on a limb there. And then the East. So obviously the easy team there is the Braves. The Phillies are also very good, but I'll stick with the Braves in that division. Phillies definitely get into the playoffs. The Padres for me definitely get into the playoffs. And people are big on the Giants as well. And I might pick them, but I want to just circle back and think real quick. I don't think the Central, I think that comes down to the wire, but I don't think any of those teams wins, 95 to 100 games. I think 90 wins, maybe even less than that, gets that job done there. But I would pick the Reds, Dodgers, Reds, Braves. The Phillies have to be in there. Padres bounce back, they're in there. And, God, do I want to pick the Giants? Can't forget about the I think the D-backs missed the playoffs. I know they went to the World Series last year. I just think that they take a step back. So I don't think the Diamondbacks make the playoffs this year. But I'd probably go Giants. And if I'm picking the order of the wild card teams, it's going to be close between Philly and San Diego. But I'd probably give Phillies the edge as the 1 wild card, San Diego 2, Giants 3. And those are my predictions. So yeah. Best record will be the Dodgers, Braves closely behind, and then the Reds will win that division. And I could see a few of those wild card teams actually being better than the Reds, but they're going to play in the first round anyway, because I think the Dodgers and the Braves. But I wouldn't pick either of those teams in the playoffs because they got to prove it to me. They got to prove to me. Just realized I left that door open behind me, right here. But the Braves and Dodgers are going to prove they can get out of the first round. They struggle, and the Braves can't beat the Phillies in the playoffs. So if they match up, I don't see the Braves beating the Phillies. So yeah, I think the Reds get in. I think they're a good story this year. That's my big out on a limb pick. And I picked a lot of the same teams, sort of. Yeah, now I think about it, I kind of did. But that's the way I feel. So, yeah. Biggest one I really went against was the Central, picking the Reds. But I still picked the Orioles. I picked the Dodgers, picked the Braves, picked the Astros. Now I picked the Twins, but the Twins won last year. So, wildcard team's a little different, but yeah. I think Tampa Bay misses out on the playoffs. I think Seattle, Texas get in, along with New York, Yankees, and yeah, Giants, Padres, Phillies, wildcard teams, NL side. So that's my prediction. I'm not going to go any further than that, talk about matchups, because I just want to pencil in the playoff teams, and then maybe come September, October, I'll make my predictions at that point. But I want to wrap things up there. Tomorrow's opening day. Obviously, no Garrett Cole, no Justin Verlander. So it's Nestor Cortez and Framber Valdez, and I have no idea what to expect from Framber Valdez throughout this year. So I try to clean slate for a lot of players as we start the season. I try to put what was in the past, and I try to give people a fresh start every year. So that's what I'll do. But I have my doubts and skepticism about some players, just how it is. But we talk about, because I'll be back on Sunday, hopefully, maybe from the radio station, maybe back here. We'll wait and see how I feel. But we'll see. First impressions is what I look at first week of the season. So, but Astros haven't been a team, even when they've won, when they won 106 games back in 2022, they didn't get out of the gates hot. They were floating around 500 for a while before they took off. So I'd like to get off to a better start, but the goal in April is just to I mean, the Astros have some injuries to the pitching rotation, so I don't know how these guys are going to perform. I mean, Hunter Brown's a guy. I feel like I'm kind of high on him this year. I was way too high on him last year. Disappointed me. So, but I think now having that year under his belt and getting into his second year, I think he can hopefully work through some things and be a better pitcher for him as the 3 guy. But again, Framber Valdez and Javier 1 and 2, at least to start the season here. I have no idea. No idea. 2 guys that had a great first half last year, and then they just both of them fell off a cliff in the second half. So I have no idea. No earthly idea. I do like the lineup. I think Yainer Diaz is a massive upgrade over Moldy last year. I pray to God and hope that Abreu is more of what we saw, last few weeks in the playoff Abreu than what he was for 6, 7, or 5.5, 6 months that he was last year, because he was just awful. I'm going to pray and hope Jake Myers can give us just enough, 250 batting average. Chaz. The lineup will look a little different because Alvarez is going to hit second. Tucker third. Bregman fourth. Altuve will still lead off. But I'm just hoping and praying that we can get some of the question marks answered in a good way. So, but yeah, I'm coming up on 28 minutes, so I'll wrap things up there. We'll talk to you Sunday at some point.